She's a longtime community volunteer. She has been on the County Council of Diversity Affairs since 2013. She's a former chairwoman of the Governor's Office of Ethnic Affairs and currently serves on the WYCA board, UAA Stands Board, Reverend Brand A. Davis Scholarship Board, and is the president of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Uptown.
Yep, that one. Chapter. She hails from Texas, lived in Florida for 10 years, and has been a resident of Utah since 1986. Emma brings her collaborative skills and community connections to the position and looks forward to working with our community. So we're going to turn the time over to Emma.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. As Desiree has said, I am originally from Dallas, Texas, and have been in Utah since 1986. And I just want to, first of all, applaud you. When I do several of these out in the community, I always want to know the first impression when I walk into an environment. And sometimes I'll walk into an environment and I have been invited to speak and no one greets me. That did not happen here. As I came through the door, Desiree opened the door and greeted me. Where's Miss Rachel? Met me. She went up the stairs and said good morning. All of you pretty much made eye contact with me and said good morning or greeted me or introduced yourselves. That is one of the most important parts about being an inclusive organization and welcoming welcoming environment as far as diversity is concerned. So I just want to applaud you because there are some times we are walking like this and we're not making any eye contact with anyone. And I say to my colleagues at Salt Lake County that if I pass you in the hall, I am going to stop in front of you. I am going to say good morning to you. My expectation is that you make eye contact with me and also greet me in my space. So I am just absolutely thrilled to be here today. And one of the things that I would like to do is hand out, this is just paper. This is just paper. So if you will take one and pass one, please. And you will take one and pass one, please. There should be about 40 of these. So they should be making themselves around. If you would take one and pass one, please. And if there are extras, we're just going to pass them up to the front. One of the things that when we talk about diversity, the things that come to mind, I want you all to know that I'm already getting that this is a safe space. I'm getting the idea that you all are comfortable with each other because your colleagues, you know each other, even in the work environment or off hours, you know each other. So you can be in a safe space and share your thoughts and concerns in this particular environment. I'm going to agree that that's how we're going to operate today. Yes? Safe environment? Okay. When we talk about the word diversity, what comes to mind? What comes to mind when we talk about the word diversity? Different? What else comes to mind?
Variety. And a variety.
Variety? What else comes to mind? When we're talking about diversity, what comes to mind? What words, what terms, what comes to mind?
Multicultural, multiracial.
Multicultural, multiracial. What else?
Diverse culture.
I mean, nowadays it feels anxiety,
Anxiety.
stress. I mean, in the world today, it feels very much like that.
It feels a little shaky out in the world right now. Okay. A lot of people, when we talk about diversity, we put race at the very top. We put ethnicity at the very top. What we want to talk about today is the umbrella of diversity and what that looks like. And so when I talk with people about diversity, the first thing that comes up sometimes is our differences. You all are waiting for the PowerPoint to begin? It's not going to happen. You got the paper. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. We talk about race. That is one of the first things that comes to mind. But what I'd like to talk to you about is your similarities. What do you have in common? What brings you to work every day, sitting next to your colleagues and your peers or your customers? What things do you have in common? And this is going to be one of those dialogue conversations. So although, who is the newest staff person here? Who's the newest team member? And we're talking, are we talking 24 hours?
3 days.
Okay, about 72 hours, something like that, okay. Who has the most seniority as far as longevity here? Okay.
The youngest looking one. Almost 17 years.
17 years. I didn't mean it in a bad way. In a complimentary way, because sometimes we don't stay anywhere for a long length of time, especially if the environment is not a welcoming environment. So kudos to you. And look what you have to look forward to. Fabulous. So one of the things I want you all to have a conversation with that people for just a few moments. What are your similarities? What do you have in common? You all work together. You probably do things off hours together. I like to dance. I like to sing. I read poetry. I ski. I'm from Texas. What is it? I got a dog. I got a cat. I got a bird. What is it that you have? I like to cook. What is it that you have in common with those that you work with? So I want you to have a conversation around the table and just talk about some commonalities, some similarities that you.
How do you know?
That was a lot of laughter going on. It's always a good time when you are working with your colleagues. So let me ask this question. I saw somebody taking notes. I saw somebody taking the lead to say who has sisters, who has brothers, who has dogs, who has birds, I saw that going on. Let me ask you this question. How comfortable was that conversation?
Very well. There's diversity.
He's like more than we all have estrogen.
So let me put that question in another way. If I said to you all, I'd like you to discuss all of your differences, all the things that separate you from the person sitting at your table. Tell me all of your differences. Now, when we're talking about differences, we're talking about similarities, which is a much easier approach. Talk to me about your similarities, because you start thinking about all the things that you enjoy doing, and then you find someone sitting across the table that enjoys French cooking. Anybody? Maybe not but you find someone sit across the table from you that they enjoy something that you didn't even know that you had commonality with. So when we're talking about those differences, that puts up a wall and that separates us. And we start creating those stories in our mind. Now, I can't talk to Emma because she is A, B, C, D in a negative way. But I can talk to Emma if she is X, Y, and Z in a positive way. So we're talking about diversity and inclusion. We're talking about taking down those barriers. We're talking about finding out what we have in common so that we can create an environment that's going to be welcoming. So what similarities did you all have in common? Any similarities over here?
We like music.
Music. Okay, so we're talking concert or just music in general? Well, we're talking concerts in the park or the fairground, we're talking Red Garden.
Whatever.
We're talking music. Anybody over on this side of the room like music? Okay. I can see a Tuesday music day. Music, Any similarities here?
We love
Food. You like food? And is it different food or just food? Anything that starts with
Any
any food.
Foodie's over here.
Foodie's over here. And so I can also see probably a lunch bunch on Wednesdays that you're gonna bring in. I'm just saying, you can bring in some food and share your, I'm just saying. Any similarities here?
Yeah, we all have sisters.
I'll have sisters. And all your sisters live in the state of Utah?
Nope.
No. Just your sister lives here. Everyone else is out of state.
Some here and out of state.
In state and out of state. And when they come to visit, you get to introduce your sisters to your team. Yes. It's like a bring your sister to work day. Similarities here. Text going on here. Anybody else got some texts? I see. Anybody else? Any similarities here? Nothing. So let me ask you this question. When you encounter people that is not in your circle, that's not in your lane, do we automatically give our biases for them? Do we automatically label them because they may look different, talk different, come from a different country? Do we because we bias, and I brought my bag of biases with me today. I'm going to share those with you. We all have stuff. But the thing about diversity and inclusion and welcoming is that you recognize what you have, but you put it aside to meet people in their authentic space. You all have a paper. You all have a paper. How many of you like PowerPoint presentations?
We have that in common. None of us like PowerPoint presentations.
Please pass those to the front. Take those up now. But this is just something that you all can possibly discuss. Yes.
Do you have any extras?
Oh, yes, we do.
Oh, here.
We do have extras.
You have that in common. Yep.
I apologize for not checking. Thank you. I checked your website. This was posted on your website. I saw that. I read that. And I thought our strengths lie in our collective knowledge, and our access to the right people for the right job. So I'm going to ask you this question. What does that feel like? When you drill that down, this is a safe space. When you drill that down, what does that mean? What does that mean for STG? Is this true? Is this absolute? Listen, I have been to many corporations. I have never felt this type of energy in a very long time. I don't know if you all got an email or a memo or to say, we're going to act like this today.
Crystal's scary.
Yes, we're but I am just blown away about the energy. And when I read this and I walked into the room, that if someone greets me, makes eye contact, has created an environment that I feel welcome walking into, I'm going to believe that this is absolutely true. Now, I know we all have our ups and downs. There are days when we walk into the office and we just need our cup of coffee. We just give me a coffee and I'll come back and talk to you. I understand that. But when I walked into your space, I absolutely, where is it? It's somewhere. I felt that. I felt that. And my question is that, do you as colleagues and your customers also feel this? You absolutely feel this, and you live it, and that you breathe it. I also saw you got an award in 2016. You got this award, right? It went on your website. Congratulations. The thing that I noticed about the award is that there were 6 components, and the one that stood out said a culture of trust. A culture of trust. That you and your colleagues work so well together, that if there's an issue or a concern or anything that's going on, you're able to have that dialogue. And that's under the umbrella of diversity and inclusion. That although we may not agree with one another, we can at least have conversation about whatever it is and come to a mutual understanding and be able to trust our colleagues. So congratulations on that award that you received. We talked about defining diversity. Okay, let's just do this. Congratulations. Congratulations. Defining diversity and inclusion, and we know all the words, we know the term, we know what it's supposed to look like. What I want to know is, where does STG fall in diversity and inclusion? And when I look around the room, I see apples. I see apples. I see apples. When I see the physical of this, I see male and female. I see male and female. So when we're talking about diversity and inclusion, how diverse do you think STG is? In the big old broad sense of diversity and inclusion, how diverse do you think it is? This is part where we have conversation.
I think there's a lot of diversity. Kind of think of what the definition is of age and things of that sort. It's not just the ethnic side of it, but it's the age, it's the gender, and just the overall differences that we all have in general with our lifestyles and how we live our lives and whatnot. But it's everyone's a little bit different, but at the same time, once we're here in the office, once we're all working together, it's neat to see how people that, we may sit downstairs, they may be up here, but once we see each other upstairs, we can stop and have a decent conversation. It's not a pass by.
It's not a pass by. It's not a pass by. You make eye contact with each other. You acknowledge each other in your space. Yes? Yes.
I would say, I've been here for 17 years. There were times in our history where we were far less diverse, far less, where religiously, educationally, age-wise, there was far less diversity, and it's interesting to see the different dynamics.
So a few years ago, you were all red apples.
A lot of red apples.
There was a lot of red apples. There's a lot of red apples.
And there were a lot of problems with that. We ran into a lot of problems.
Okay, so you got a green, you got a couple of, and these will be left on the refreshment table. So you got some diversity going on here as far as changing the dynamics of STG, correct? Okay. You started adding some stuff, right? Okay, because although we may all be apples, we all bring our uniqueness. So let's remove one of those. Put that right there. We all bring our uniqueness to our team as a whole, yes? Yes. And what does that do when you bring uniqueness to your team? What does it do? What does it do for you?
I think it adds value to my way of living, because I can bring on their differences and maybe enhance my own way of doing things or way of being. That's how I look at it. I look at their differences as something I can value and use or just appreciate.
So we're gonna capitalize on everyone's skills to enhance the overall success of STG. Pretty much, yes.
Yeah, I was gonna just add, a different perspective. Oftentimes when you only have your own, you don't see the broader picture, and having different perspectives allow you to grow as well.
Okay. Yes.
Basically just learning from each other. You're learning from each other?
Learning from each other. We are learning from each other. Okay. So when we're talking about your management and your team, you talked about diversity and inclusion. We also talked about exclusion as well. But where is STG? STG? STG. Where are you going to mix all of that? And this is a question. I'm going to give you a handout. We're going to take one and pass one. We're going to start on this end first. Take one and pass one. And one of the things that we look at, is exclusion. And what does exclusion look like? Now, this piece of paper has a bunch of words on it. And they may apply to you, they may not apply to you, but these are words that have been used that have excluded people. And if there's a word on that page that kind of rings to you or you haven't felt that, just circle that. This is your piece of paper. I'm not taking it back. You can do what you want to do with it. It is a two-sided piece as well. So we're going to talk about the words that are on there that may be exclusionary, and we may not even know that we are using this to exclude people.
Fill it out for me.
Are we filling this out
For ourselves.
for ourselves or as a company?
If there's a word that you were on this paper that you may have been excluded for because of your age, or your gender, or your race, or your education, or your
In a
living,
lifetime or here at STG?
since birth,
Oh,
since birth, if you've ever been excluded any time in your life, or felt excluded any time in your life, since birth, based on a label or a word.
Maybe she'll tell us.
There's a back type too.
Oh, I can. I'll give it to you.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. We love technology to find out exactly what is pen sector.
Exactly. Well, I needed to know if I was.
We would all like to know it.
gender, you're attracted to, you have to. You didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that meant. He's looking for the next one.
Okay, I'm gonna bring everyone back. When Desiree introduced me, she said I was a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. That is the first African-American women's organization, Greek organization that was founded in 1908 at Harvard University. It is a service organization, educated college women. Every once in a while, we will go on a leadership training. A couple of months ago, we were in San Diego, and a group of my chapter members, we had all gone to lunch. And as we were leaving the restaurant, the hostess said to a group of African-American women, doctors, lawyers, professional women, "You girls have a nice day. You girls have a nice day." And we understood exactly what the intent was of this young hostess. The judge in the bunch of us, Judge Shauna Graves Robertson, who is my sorority sister and also works at the county, she stopped, and you could almost hear her heels screech. And she turned to the young lady and she said, "Miss, I just want to let you know, please do not refer to women as girls." And there could have been a long, drawn-out conversation as to the historical perspective of why you should not call an adult woman a girl, especially an African-American woman. But we simply, we dropped the mic, and then we walked out. We walked out the door. And I say that to say this. If there are words on this list that any of us have ever been called, and we do not challenge the person calling us those names or labeling us by those terms, we are not in our authentic self. We give up a piece of us because we allow someone to refer to us in a manner that is inappropriate, that is insensitive, and is exclusionary. So, one of the words I never, ever want to be called is girl. I absolutely do not want to be called girl. I don't want anyone to change my name. My mother named me Emma Elizabeth. She did not name me E. She did not name me M. She just didn't. So when someone shortens my name, they take away a portion of my identity. And my responsibility to be authentic is to say, "My name is Emma. Please refer to me as Emma." And I repeat it until it becomes their idea. Anyone ever have their name changed? Ever? Anyone ever have their name changed? Their name. And how do you pronounce it?
Desiree.
Desiree. And you have it called?
Desiree,
Yeah,
like everything.
Miss D.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And when you correct people, how does it make you feel?
I usually go to
My daughter's name is Alexandria, which I think is beautiful. She likes to be called Lexi. I call her Alex. Other people call her Lexus. I mean, it's just totally confusing.
Yes.
I like it when I get nicknames, so I don't feel like it. So that's good to hear that, because when I give people nicknames, for me, it's usually a term of endearment, and I don't ever think that that's gonna offend somebody. So I'm glad that, I hope somebody would let me know that that's offending them.
And maybe because they love you so much.
It wouldn't offend me if they told me I don't want a nickname, then I would just know not to use it.
And you have raised your name?
Oh, I didn't, but yeah, so I think some people actually see a nickname as, it allows them to be part of the club and they like it. And I look at that as my sons. Sometimes they wish other people had nicknames for their friends, but they don't have one.
Yes.
And so I think that's what he raises. You don't know until you ask.
You don't know until you ask.
And I think that's the part of diversity is, I need to understand you
Yes.
so that I don't want to offend.
Yes.
And you may say, I really want to be called, everyone calls me him. Oh, great.
Yes, yes. And that is when we're talking about getting to know people, getting to have those conversations. And the reason I bring up the name, there's a historical perspective to it. And LeVar Burton was in town last week for the Roots Conference. And he gave the historical, does anyone know who LeVar Burton is? Okay. LeVar Burton played in the original Roots series, and he was captured from Africa, brought over, enslaved, and the masters wanted his name to be Toby. And so LeVar Burton was saying, we own our name. That is, we don't own no house and no car, because we got a mortgage and we got a car note. I'm just saying, we have bought some stuff. We may think we own it, but our name, we truly own our name. It is who we are, it's our authentic self. So when someone changes your name, it takes away from who we are, unless they have given you outright permission to say, call me M, call me this.
I'm a little different from that, because my name is Amy Jo Peck. Grew up being called, my mom called me Mimi or Peckerpuss. Never had any problems with nicknames. I've been married 3 times, so I went through lots of different changes. And now my last name is Miller with an AR, and people call me Miller. I'm like, I don't care what you call me.
And tell me your name again.
Chris.
And what Chris says, it all depends on how well do I know. I would not necessarily come up to you and call me, what do you want to call me?
Don't say it.
And don't want you started. But it all depends on where you are and what, it just all depends on how comfortable you are with someone, but your relationship, family is a total different dynamic. But in the professional setting, when you're talking with customers, when you're talking with your colleagues, we need to know, how do you refer? How do you want me to refer to you? And if it's my nickname, so be it. Yes.
And just as an example of this, we have a number of consultants, and the average consultant it's kind of a diversity challenge, because in Utah, it's a male-driven, and you're gonna get a lot of white, you're gonna get a lot of the same. But I had a consultant, and I was told his name was Eric Olson. And so that's what everybody called him, and I had managed him for 2 years. And then he said to someone else, Wilson, and I said, whoa, 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 I've been calling you the wrong name? And he says, yeah. And I felt badly because, now he didn't, but I felt like I didn't know you well enough to even know what your name is. And that it caused me to go to all my consultants and say, how do you say your name? Because I don't want to assume that I was right because what I was told was right.
Absolutely, absolutely. My colleagues, even my family members, if you call my phone, even when my daughter calls my phone, I say, good morning, Em Houston. And I can see her, it's my daughter calling me, because my name is important to me. Like, it's just absolutely important to me. And so when we have that dialogue, we have customers that come into your space, I will say, my name is, how did I introduce myself? I said, Em Houston. I said, Em Houston. I said, Em Houston. And there were a couple of people who also shared their first and last name with me as well. Because can you tell I got a passion about the name thing going on? I got a passion about it. And when I meet people, I say to them, in order for me not to mispronounce the name, could you please say it? And they will say it to me until I get that name correctly. I work with a diverse community from all backgrounds, and my intent is to, first of all, respect their space, but also respect the integrity of their name as well. So I ask people, now pronounce your name for me, please, so that I can get it right. So when we're talking about, it's on every level, it's absolutely on every level. So what I want to know is, what is a word you don't ever want to be called? I've given you mine, I don't want to be called girl. That's just me. What is a word you don't ever, ever, ever want to be called? You shouldn't say space.
I don't want to say it.
It's a safe space.
I'll tell you one that in the workplace that I don't like from men is when they call me sweetheart. I don't like it. It's as a female when they're like, it's okay, sweetheart. That just makes me want to say, okay, now let's just figure out for just a second. Like, I don't like, because it just gives that, like, you don't know what you're talking about, bless your little heart. It just gives that connotation to a female, so I don't like that in the workplace. No, I'm just saying, like, look, as a female, I don't know how many other women in here like it, but when like, if you go to like your car dealership or something, and then they all of a sudden they're like, oh, is something wrong with your car, sweetheart? Yes, I actually know. Anyway, that makes me feel.
I got nothing. I got nothing. Anything else? Any other word anyone want to share? Any more? Okay. So, yes.
Sorry, I just kind of came up with it. Since I'm younger, and when I go into places and I feel like I don't have a good grasp on things, and when people call me kid, oh yes, good work, kid, or good work, son. Sport. That one. It's not necessarily, they're trying to make it lighter to say you're younger than me, so you don't know as much as I do, which is fine on their end if they think that, but it's undermining my integrity, undermining how much I know rather than just what they know.
Any other words out there?
When's Mr.? We call him Mr.
You can call
Mr.?
Mr.
Yeah. I've actually dealt with a couple candidates that have emailed me, like sent me an email like, hello, Mr. Josh Williams. Mr. to me is like, that's just not, I don't know, I don't like it. It's not a word that I enjoy.
Okay. And you're trying to respect you. They're trying to respect you, Josh. That's very interesting. They're doing their best, right, to impress you and show you respect. Right.
I don't like being called down because it makes me feel like I'm old. Do I look like I'm, well, I shouldn't say age. You call me ma'am now? No. That's okay. Okay. Going back to knowing a person, knowing their history, their culture, their heritage. In the African American community, you will always call Mr. or Miss. You will always say, thank you, please, excuse me, ma'am, sir. That's just our culture. That's just our culture. And the culture comes from this. Because we didn't have recognition, because we now have recognition, although Judge Shauna Grace Robinson is my sorority sister and our children grew up together, she is always Judge Robinson. Whenever I have conversation with her, in private or in public, she is always, first of all, she earned that. And I want to give her that respect. My pastor is always pastor. He's never friends. He is never, I love him. He may as well not have a first name. He is always reverend or pastor because in our history and our culture, and that goes back to what Chris is saying, do I know you well enough to understand where you're coming from when you say, I'm Miss Emma, or she's Judge Robertson, or he's Pastor Davis. So it all depends on what we do when someone refers to you as Mr. Do you reply back and say, thank you so much for acknowledging my title, but call me Josh.
I have several.
Okay? And until it becomes their idea, until they become comfortable with that, please just call me Joshua. Refer to me as Joshua. Yeah. How do we stand in our authenticity and say, just call me Joshua? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to share this. I am from Peru, in the culture. It's Jesus Christ. And that's my heart. That's what I want to respect people. And you know, like my daughter's friend, they just said to me, oh, hi Sarah, it's kind of, you know, it's kind of a shock for me. And they call my mom, Alicia, okay? And they said, oh, she's my mom. So yes, I just.
Did you all hear?
Yeah.
Okay. My children are now young adults. And when we moved from Florida to Utah, teacher said to them, oh, call me by my first name. And this is safe space, right? See?
Yeah.
And my children say, you don't understand, my mother is black. And that don't go over well. So you will be Mrs. You will be. Our children, our culture We do not call adults by their first name. That's just an understood. That's just, and our children have been raised to understand that you are Mr. or you're a Miss or you are whatever title that you are. So understanding your culture, understanding your clients, understanding what is acceptable to them. I would never call your mother by her first name. That's just not being true to me. So correcting people, correcting your children's friends, when they come to your house, they call you by your first name. It's like, it is Mrs.
Or it is senior.
It is Senor. It is that.
My grandmother, who lived with us for 10 years, her children's grandmother, corrected the children who came into our house always. And when she passed, they always said, I miss your grandmother correcting me. They appreciated, take your hat off of the table. They appreciated the generational knowledge. You know, maybe they were a little embarrassed at first, but they appreciated being corrected. Okay.
I'm gonna give you one more story, and then we're gonna almost be out of here. And in regards to exclusion, every once in a while, I will go to the store, buy some milk, bread, cheese, and shoes. And I will notice that when I get up to the counter to check out, there's usually someone in front of me. And I will hear the clerk say to the customer in front of me, good morning. Thank you for coming. We're so glad you're shopping with us today. Did you find everything you needed? Please come back and see us again. And I'm thinking, I got the gold star clerk. And then I walk up to the counter, and they don't make eye contact with me. And they don't welcome me. They don't address me. They don't thank me. They don't say have a pleasant day. Now, there are some days I want to die on a hill. There are some days I want to fight the battle. And there are some days I just want to take my shoes and go home. I just want to do that. But the day I want to die on the hill, I will take my purchase. I will find the customer service desk. I will ask for the manager. And I will say to the manager, I am not sure if it is Friday and you only greet every other customer, and I was the other customer not greeted. I would like a refund, please. And the manager will begin to apologize. And he said, well, what color was it? I said, it doesn't matter. If you're going to greet every customer, I expect every customer to be greeted. I'd like a refund, please. There are some times I want to die on here. And there are some times I'm tired. I'm just absolutely exhausted. Anybody ever experienced that? Ever experienced not being greeted? Ever experienced leaving your money at an establishment that you know is not going to be happy there? Your money is, you left me here. This is not enough space. Your money's $20. No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Do we expect common courtesy across the board? The question is this. Do we give it across the board? Are we always on point when we enter someone's space? And that's what diversity and inclusion and welcoming is all about. Being on point to recognize I am in your space. I'm going to acknowledge you. I'm going to just, if nothing else, I'm going to give you the sister nod. I see you. I got to say nothing, but can I acknowledge you? Can I pass you in the hall? Although my mind may be concentrating on something else. Can I acknowledge you? Can I just give you a sister nod, the brother? Can I just do that? So when we're talking about the clients you serve internally and externally, are we always on point? Are we ringing true to find out what we have in common? Are we ringing true to find out what is inappropriate? Are we ringing true to ourselves and our authenticity? I'm going to close with one more thing. I told you this PowerPoint didn't make a difference. Yeah, because you all know this. You all have created a safe space. I was looking at your company norms. I'm saying, you all need to go on the road trainings.
And I just speaking for myself, I think a lot of, when I look at my lack of diversity, it comes from fear. When I don't know, so I grew up in Salt Lake in a white school, in a white neighborhood, not wanting to be biased, but if you're not exposed to diversity, we fear what we don't know.
Absolutely.
And I'm trying to break through that. I was in the locker room the other day at the gym, and there was a man who was 6'5" and heavily tattooed and beard and piercings. And I just said, wow, that seems like, how long did that take to get the tattoos? And he talked for 20 minutes, and he was the nicest person, but I had fears, and I didn't want, my first reaction is don't talk to him because he's different. And so I think for a lot of diversity is not being afraid to admit you're afraid, and just say, there's things I don't know about you. I apologize if what I'm going to say might sound insensitive or just uneducated, but I don't know.
How courageous are we to do that?
It's hard.
It's the first step. Okay, now I'm just gonna ask you a couple of
Been in Utah since 1972.
Of all the things that you have seen, what stands out the most that has had an impact?
The importance of family and what it's taught me of culture and family.
So when I lived in Florida, my husband was interviewed and brought out here. And the first thing I thought was, what a great place to raise kids. Now, I'm just understanding something. How difficult was that conversation? Was that a difficult conversation? I would just not walk in the door and say, hey, I'm looking for Chris. I would have a conversation with Chris. You would just not walk in a space unless you intentionally wanted to have a conversation with people. So when we think about changing the narrative of fear, how do we intentionally engage? If you want to know something about someone, how many of you have been to the Juneteenth Festival? Okay, how many of you know what the Juneteenth Festival is? June.
Yeah, that's all
Okay, and you know, I'm coming from a place where I am. Juneteenth, when Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, the word did not get to Texas until 2 years later. And so on June 19th in Texas, when the word was received that blacks were free, they created the Juneteenth Festival, which is a heritage festival that has been going on for over 80 years. We do one in Salt Lake City.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I'm just saying. And it brings out the culture and the history and the song and the music and the food. And if you want some good gumbo, I'm just saying. So the Juneteenth Festival is a celebration. The Polynesian Festival, the Chinese Festival, all of these festivals that go on in Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, they come through my office and I disperse it out to the community. So if you want to know what's going on in the diversity community, I mean under the umbrella of everything that you could put under diversity, it goes through my office. All workshops, all movies, all screenings, all festivals, it goes in my office. So I disperse it out to the community. So what Chris and I just did, I mean, it's a stage, it is. But if you want to know something about someone, you simply ask a question. You come from a safe space, I want to know more about you. And you come about your history, your culture, what pushes your button?
Share a quick story. We have time?
We do. You all told me we have time, right? Let me get to this young lady here first.
Hi. So I think one of the things I love most about being here at SGG is when I sit down with a consultant, my first question is, tell me about yourself. Tell me who you are. I want to know about you and what your love is, whether it's technology, whether it's something else. Because the way I feel we are as a company is we're not about the job. We're not about throwing jobs at people. We're about getting to know who they are, what they love, what culture they love, what environment they love, so that we can get them to the place and feel the best and be the most successful. And so my love, and I do this different because I'm Jerry, but I just say everything on my mind. And so when I'm with somebody, the rapport gets really easy because we start laughing or we start talking about things that are important to them. And then I can build on that relationship with trust. And that's what STG does. They build on those relationships.
I get that feel, I get that vibe, yes.
So I grew up in a very diverse family, and I think it's so funny where my father is African American, he's black, and so when we would go places, we'd get stared at all the time, and I remember not thinking anything of other cultures or anything. It was just, I was always with my grandma Pauline, and we were always very diverse. And then one day, we went, when you said Pastor Davis, I had to bring this up. One day, we never went to church, we weren't very religious, but my grandma was like, you guys come to church on Easter. And so my parents brought my brother, that's my brother back there, and I to church. And all of a sudden, my mom and I were the only white people at church, and I was like, this is how it feels? I had never been on the opposite side. And I was like, so out of my element and just so uncomfortable. And so now I've like learned to embrace it even more and realize how different people feel when they're standing out. And it was just a great experience for me. And then we went more often, and then funerals were amazing. So I mean, it was a great life experience for us.
Yes. We all bring our stuff. We absolutely all bring our stuff. Thank you for sharing, all of you, those stories that you have. And the Black culture is a cultural celebration. When someone dies, it's a celebration. I mean, because regardless of what you believe, you're going to heaven. It's just, it is. Because we all go there. So anyway.
I do not want an LDS funeral. I want a Baptist funeral.
See, what's going on up in there? It's a grand celebration. Grand celebration. But what I'd like to do, and I know I am a little running out of time, I want to close with what's in my bag. And I've had this bag since birth. And the thing is that my biases have been influenced by my upbringing, by my parents, by my teachers, by my environment, by news, radio, music, by my friends, it has been influenced. And I have brought some stuff with me. And this bag is heavy. I'm going to drop it. So listen up. Oh, my bag is heavy. My bag is heavy. I got stuff in my bag. Anybody got a bag? Let me show you what's in my bag. You got a bag, Chris? Thank you. We all got bags. The only one without a bag. May I use this corner like this? Show you what's in my bag and some biases that have come across my life. This one. I have biases about gender identity. I have biases. I have biases about age. Whether you're young or old or in between or in the middle, I got some biases. I bring some stuff with me related to those biases that I have. I do. I have some stuff. I have biases about political affiliations in work status. If you're the CEO, if you're the office specialist, I got some biases about political affiliations and
You need a bigger block.
I'm sorry.
I'm teasing. I said you might need a bigger block for that one.
I'm trying to keep small. I got biases about disability. I got biases about vegetarians. I'm just saying, I do. I'm trying to be honest here. I got biases about color of skin. I got biases about education. There are days when I get up and I meet people where they are and we have conversation. And we start off meeting each other in a safe space. And I am there to listen. I am there to receive. I am there to be inclusive. I am there to be welcoming. And those days go much better than when I pull out my bag and I have an opinion on ethnicity and race or language. So all the things that we do on a daily basis, we bring our stuff. We recognize our stuff. How we act upon them, how we project it on someone else, that's a strategy. How do we meet people where they are? How do we get to know them? How do we get to make them feel welcome? How do we get to make them feel inclusive? How do we get them to make them understand this is a safe space? Safe space. That's all I got. That's all I got.